This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, truth seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. We're going to be picking up where we left off from last week. We have a couple letters and some more solves that we're going to be discussing. I'm going to start. We do have Harriette Sucher here today, and I'd like to bring her on to the show.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I forgot I had this in my pocket. It's extra warm now.
So we were talking last week, obviously, in regards to the My Name Is Solve and envelope and letter that you had done. And then I had somebody who actually reached out to me and mentioned we were trying to figure out what Poe was about. Before we get into that, I'm going to also welcome onto the show Terry Batcher.
Hey, kids.
Good morning, Terry. How are you doing?
Very well.
Good. So I had received an email again from that person we all love to talk about. And they had indicated that they believe somebody else had stumbled onto the fact that there was a possibility that the Zodiac derived his ciphers and codes from the Edgar Allan Poe, The Gold Bug. Has anybody heard of that?
I've never heard that before, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I know, right?
Right.
I had to quickly go back because I heard about the Poe aspects over the years, the overtones. So I looked up Edgar Allan Poe, and he was, if I got it correctly, he was an editor of a publication as well as the author, but he was a crypto analyst. He knew about codes, so people would send codes to him as the editor, and we're talking about I think the early to mid 19th century. So we're talking about somebody with some who knew codes and who knew how to break them and create them. So that's it's going back to the Skull and Bones era.
Really? Is Edgar Allan Poe part of that, or is that just a time frame reference?
I'm having a feeling that he is because of the macabre, the Skull and Bones, and Edgar Allan Poe writing about skulls and ravens and whatever. So it's just a theory now, but it's a strong workable theory now.
So let me see if I can figure out where I saw that in your solve here. Let's see. What did you have to say about Poe? Where was he?
He's saying something in both times. He's mentioning Poe, but if you see the scan or the whatever it is now, it's got editor on it, an upside down editor on the envelope and a regular editor. So it's like, he's talking to two editors, Randolph Hearst, and then the lesser known but still very when you look him up, Charles DeYoung Thoreau, I come up with CIA PDF files. So why is that? Because I want to know more about who I'm seeing in what is coming in this through Jack's world. So very interesting there. So I gather Jack had a nickname for him as Poe.
Sure.
Well, that would make some sense. And of course, there's a million rabbit holes that we can go down in regards to where he derives his codes from. I mean, books, movies, songs, like Terry has mentioned, you know, some of these songs have literally been made after these events, or about these events. So there's a lot of places that he could derive that.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to pop up the presentation. Oh, one more thing. If anybody has the opportunity to check out, I just found a new movie called The Killer on Netflix. I was absolutely floored. You have to be talking to the very person who was or is the killer in order to have compiled the information that is put into this movie. But I about fell out when he said he hadn't had a nice silent drowning in a very long time. This literally, you walk through the footsteps of the thoughts and the mindset and the things that a killer like Jack or the Zodiac would have to go through and do in order to have his position or his job. Like, he starts at first with, if you get bored easy, this job isn't for you, because there's a lot of sitting around for the target, waiting for the target, looking for the target, finding the right time to kill that target. Either way, what's that?
I was going to say, is it a recent movie?
Yes, it just came out on Netflix. I was scrubbing and cleaning and organizing my office all weekend. I had some new filing cabinets put in. So unfortunately, I did not get to sit down and watch it with the intensity that I would like to. So I'm going to go back and revisit the movie where I can sit down from beginning to end and take some notes on it. But he talks about poisonings. He talks about shootings. He talks about stranglings. He literally is going through all of the methods. And he basically says, if you can't afford me, don't even talk to me, and don't even try to get me on the side of goodwill or doing justice, because he basically is there to be paid to be a killer. That's it. That's all he wants to do. All right. So we were speaking about the Kathleen Johns letter last week, and this is the letter in regards to the Zodiac having picked up Kathleen Johns and her baby and taken her for a couple-hour ride. She was able to escape at one point with her child, and then the Zodiac ultimately burnt her car because he was obviously upset that he had lost, obviously, his victim. I also thought to myself at the same time, you were talking about this child ring in one of the solves, Harriette?
It has to do with lightning a man, the other lesser known Charles Manson type, who's the second coming of Jesus, and making white babies for couples who are really desperate to have white children and selling them.
It made me wonder whether or not the attempt was to abscond with Kathleen Johns' baby.
I'm seeing it through, once I decoded this, and I said, wow, I know a lot about Lightning Amen now, because I've done all the Texas I-45 killer cases and heard a lot about Lightning Amen. The Klaus's, Baby Holly, you'll see stuff about that in the future solves, and not too far from this one. But anyways, apparently, according to Jack's World, John McCain, like the third, because he's from a very wealthy family, quietly got together with Sister Susan, who is Susan Weed, who is Stephen Weed's a future Patty Hearst boyfriend. They got together to make a baby, a white baby. It sounds a little rotten, but it looks like, because he wasn't the POW at that moment, if I got this correctly, and then soon becomes a POW. And then we got a mess. It's the Vietnam War. Nixon's in office. John McCain, the father, is the head of the friggin' Navy. So it looks like they did things to keep something quiet. So,
that's another thing that was brought up by that movie, The Killer, was the fact that he mentioned that sometimes some of his jobs were evidently to put pressure on high political figures and people. And so we've been talking a lot about that in this particular series of events, all the way back to the lipstick killings, where they're killing children of high influential people and politicians and things like that. And that is definitely to put the pressure on them. they're going to kill the family instead of them, because they realize that they can't go around taking out all of these political people, because somebody's going to be trying to figure or solve that crime, and that brings too much attention. So things that look like random accidents that might take the child of a politician, say like Voinovich, whose daughter was killed by a van while he was running for his office, is kind of the things that came to mind when he said that some of the kills were literally just meant to put pressure on the right people. So you guys have to watch this movie. It's absolutely, I think that once I sit down and take all of the notes, I'll have a whole lot to say in regards to it.
Would you say, in your opinion on that movie, is this another take a cue from the world of Jack and just remove some names and put some scenarios, relabel it? There are so many movies that can be attributed to Jack's MK Ultra world, 1940s to 1990s.
I've seen that. I can't. I agree. I haven't seen that, but I can't cite them at the moment. But I know exactly.
Well, like Dirty Harry, right?
Exactly.
Dirty Harry, yeah.
I know that I've heard several movies from you, Terry, where you've intimated the fact that, yes, these were things that were revolving around or were descriptions of what Jack was up to, what was going on in the Zodiac era, and obviously many different crime sprees at the same time.
I get one little thing I want to get off, a little point off my chest, so we bear this in mind as we go through all this stuff. When I got this recent document I sent you about this Dr. Olson that was kind of hidden by the Oakland County child prosecutor in that case, Oakland County case, that was only for the first 3 victims, that this doctor had said that this killer was very unique, and the fact that he stopped and he was handling the bodies as much as he was very unique to him. That's not the average serial killer. It's not, it's very, very uncommon. It's extremely uncommon. And so it's a signature item, in other words. So when these kids do go, and then to handle them as long as he did, too, 19 days for the last one right before Tim King, and held her for 19 days, alive for 19 days. In a clean environment, too. So he had to have had help, too.
There was a... Yeah. And of course, considering the fact that he also properly positioned and laid these bodies out within distances of the police department and in very public ways in order to send the message that they were looking to send, I think also couples that.
I don't mean to take the subject off track, but I'm just saying that's one thing I wanted to interject before I forget, and and make a point about that. But there's another characteristic that came up. They thought, well, this guy's got to be a neat freak. And in fact, the sightings they actually had of him in the Oakland County area showed that he was kind of dressed like a dirtball, that he wasn't really all that tidy or fastidious about his own personal appearance. So,
well, if we went off of the letter, and I know we're not there yet, but the accomplice letter states that he brings them up in laundry bags. That to me is definitely a signal, because we have Jack freshly coming out of the South Lake Tahoe area where he was working for South Lake Tahoe Linen. And of course he had supposedly an injury while he was there, but I kind of tend to believe that he got injured jumping out of the DB Cooper plane.
Yes, he did.
And in 72, he's filing a claim, work comp claim against South Lake Tahoe. And so to hear about the laundry bags really just kind of to put into perspective, because we also had Moonlight state that she had found remains that she believed were Donna Lass's, and those remains were also found in a laundry bag. So there is a method that is running there. So when we left off last week, we were talking about your solve, Harriette, on the Kathleen Johns letter. And I've got it up here nice and bold if you want to read that over for us so that we can start and take off from here.
I believe this is the envelope for the letter, which says amazing details. He's trying to stay focused, but anyways, it says Examiner President Randolph Hearst, care of the San Francisco Chronicle, IO, documents in order, Navy McCain's son, and then he's saying, like, remember, B cutouts, Defense Department, 1969, McCain, John, his sister Susan boyfriend. That's Susan Sister Susan of Lightning Amen. Anyways, which is Kathleen Weed. Anyways, Lightning Amen and Louis Beam Commission, One Pretty Infant, adoption for 2 people in Tracy, California,
Wow.
3/22nd, 1970. Jack.
Okay, so let me stop you. Let me stop you right there at that particular part. The Louis Beam Commission, One Pretty Infant adoption for 2 people in Tracy, California. I want everybody to understand that the Kathleen Johns letter where she's getting this information from was an actual abduction in the Modesto area, correct?
Well, I think he's alluding to that it wasn't exactly an abduction, but was taking part in.
No, not this.
Okay,
not this particular instance. What I'm saying is that it is saying 2 people in Tracy, California on 3/22/70. My information supports that 3/22 was that not the date that
Yes.
Kathleen Johns was abducted?
Yeah, that's
in March,
that's the date
right?
of the story of the abduction.
Okay. And so
Yes.
also the Tracy, California part is right next door to Modesto and Stockton
Yes.
and all of that stuff. So same area. So interesting that the envelope from the Kathleen Johns letter is yielding information that is consistent with the area and the time frame of that abduction of Kathleen Johns. All right, go on with IJAC.
Yeah, then see, he's having a hard time concentrating. It's 1974. He's having flashbacks. Jack, to get even for Army spy Jesse James Kuhn died on April 23rd, 1968. Randolph returned receipt request at Frank Olson. Sorry for printing. CIA New York 411 and San Francisco 411. Senator Prescott Bush era and then he's saying, can't stop us. Frank I. Pause. Ira Gottlieb LSD Dwight Eisenhower Saudi execute order circa 911-01 destroy paper, and then he's saying that's 3,066,899,000,000. That's in the stamp identification. Anyways, files going to crash United Airlines flight 175, American flight 11, Twin Towers, Randolph, UIR 99. It's Ubi Ius Remedium 999. It's the reverse of 666, the evil order. Anyways, where is the reverse evil order remedy, Terrence? I got all of that out of the envelope. And I didn't really have to put much words in there. It was there in anagramming everything identifiable on the envelopes. Or just envelope right here. Unbelievable.
Now I'm going to ask a stupid question because I don't know this, but is the airlines that actually flew into the Twin Towers flight 175 United Airlines and flight 11 from American?
Yes,
I believe they were. Yeah.
Yes. And get this. I'll say it really quick. The United Airlines, American Airlines, when I seen this surfacing again for me, the millionth time, I had to really make sure, was American Airlines and United started many decades ago? Yes, 1926 for both of them. So according to Jack's World, this was well planned decades in advance. Unbelievable, but true stuff.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it.
Wow.
Again, I can only say the only real way, as Helms realized after attempting to have all of the MK Ultra documents destroyed and 30,000 of those documents popping up out of nowhere, the only way the CIA could ensure that all information and anything they had ever done could be destroyed would be to take down the entire building, the computers, the paperwork, everything, to destroy it to the point that somebody could not get their hands on another piece of it. And that's what we saw happen with Tower number 7.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you want me to read this one? Because this is, can we just say,
yes.
really
Hold on. Let me introduce it real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
And then
now
I'll
we're
explain.
moving on to the actual Kathleen Johns letter, and the letter again, it didn't give us any information we didn't already know. It had been well produced in the news already that she had been abducted, that she had identified the Zodiac killer, that her car had been burnt. All of these things had already been said and in the news, which makes me feel like there's a redundancy with that communication coming out. So there must be another meaning, and Harriette has actually had a solve on that particular, and this one was stenographic as well, right?
No, this was actually just an anagram of everything in the letter.
Okay. I need to change that then.
Basically an hour. I think I did an anagram of everything. I said, what the hell? This stemmed from Nanette sent me the King Nixon postcard. So then I said, well, okay, I'm realizing a lot of things that are in what I found there were going back to what's supposed to be 1970 that are appearing to be 1974. So anyways, I anagrammed this, and it brings up about the greengrocer. That's Joe Carcione.
Hold on. Who's Joe Carcione?
He's the greengrocer, but he was famous. He was constantly on local TV. But he was also, I understand, a great patriot, a World War II veteran, and it looks like he was, since he was working through, he had newspaper columns also. So it looks a couple of times Jack and his crew are working through him or with him.
All right, so I want to pause you right there, because when I saw that, I jumped immediately back to John Fazio. He also World War II veteran, also a major player in the media, the news, the grocery world. And we have a solve by you and Swearingen that actually lists the name John Fazio. So I'm starting to feel like, and your last solve talked about Ohio, and we have this greengrocer in Ohio, like all of it. So are you sure that greengrocer has to do with this other guy that you're talking about versus John Fazio?
No, it wouldn't be. I wouldn't say it's John Fazio, but he's. If you see his face on older TV commercials and things in local Bay Area, he was very well known, and he was nicknamed the Greengrocer. So
okay. So
it
you think so it sounds to me like the mob's well in on the grocery stores and all the little stop and shops and the convenience stores and all of that stuff. So there could be something, or a group, or even maybe a society of these individuals.
I hate to say it, but it took the mobsters to get rid of the bad mobster, Sam Giancana. So there was a lot of things going on. They said we make mobsters, but a lot of them were Catholic, and they may not like the Kennedys, but they were not too keen on Catholics killing other Catholics. So you had mobsters, the good mobsters, working to get rid of the bad mobsters, as bizarre as it sounds.
No, that is not bizarre at all. It's not. Okay, so go ahead and read that song.
I was hitting my head when I read that. I said, this is just a simple anagram. Okay, it says greengrocer Kathleen Weed, aka Sister Susan, 7-month fetus pregnant, was driving in Eve. Us, what we sent in Sac B cutouts. DD, that's Department of Defense, to White House. The enemy territory prisoner is the father, and the couple commissioned her baby with San Bernardino hippie, lightning amen, an imperial wizard of the KKK. Anyways, it just says Imperial Wizard, Louis Beam, and Aryan Brotherhood Petaluma Adoption Facility. Terrence.
Wow.
So we are seeing some sort of child trafficking ring, would you call it then?
Yes and no. It sounds horrible, but there were people that were desperate for adopting children and wanted the perfect white baby. So they were going through people like this. That you made sure that they had a lineage that can go back, that could be traceable. But I would assume safely that these were sealed adoptions, but babies were worth money if you had somebody that had some Department of Defense links and political links, that baby would be worth money, and there were people willing to pay for a baby.
Absolutely. So I'm interested in the fact that obviously, while this letter is about Kathleen Johns, it does not actually mention, the true letter itself does not mention Kathleen's name. However, in your solve, you come up with the name Kathleen, which is highly relatable to the abduction of Kathleen Johns. Again, another one of those possible confirmations that you're onto something with.
Yeah, you got a good confirmation on all of it, really.
Right?
Yeah, I think
so. And I just wanted to state really quickly, over the years, I really tried, so did Dennis when he got to know him better. He said that there was really no information on where did Kathleen Johns, the famous abductee, where did she go to school, who's her parents, where is she buried. There was really nothing out there. And that's when Dennis was saying, when they were about to interview her, and she was telling Dennis through the contacts, she's ready to tell everything. And then she dies mysteriously of a heart attack the night before they were supposed to interview her.
Right.
She was saying, I'm ready to tell. I want to tell it all.
Well, the crazier thing is that there's no way for us to confirm she actually died from a heart attack.
Exactly.
Who knows? They may have put Dennis through all of these steps only to just want to stifle the introduction or meeting, and just said that she died of a heart attack. So who's to know if she really even passed away?
I don't even know where she died. Where did she die? Where's the hospital?
Supposedly in Sonoma County. I suppose that's a quick trip for me to go to the clerk's office and look up the death record and see what there is on it.
There is a Kathleen Weed, by the way. I will look
really?
Some things. Yeah, Stephen Weed seems to have anyways, we don't want to go too far into that. That's a rabbit hole in itself. But when I'm seeing these names surface and seeing all these connections, I stop what I'm doing and I quickly search, use my phone, go to the library, whatever, because I want to just make sure I'm on the right footing. So it does appear there is a Kathleen Weed out there. But who's
Kathleen,
now?
Kathleen Johns must have been specifically targeted. That's the connection you also want to figure out too, isn't it? That you want to figure how did he get onto her? Why was she targeted? Exactly.
I think that the play on words is she's John's Kathleen, because you have 3 John McCains. They're all very prominent. The father, the grandfather, the whatever. So
3 confirmations many times.
John's Kathleen. Okay.
Right.
Well, so and I've asked many times.
Just for her namesake, maybe. Just her namesake, then. Maybe. Okay.
Well, and we did see some flip-flopping and name matching in some of the crime sprees. As we get into some of those later ones, we'll start to see those name swappings or matchings, or almost as if they were identifying, targeting individuals with those names on purpose. Which brings to light, again, like you said, Terry, that much of this is all done with a high amount of intel, inside knowledge. So these are not random murders by any means.
No, there's you can see it even in the OCC. I always jump to that because I've been studying it lately, but they think that the first 3 victims were like random. I say that they aren't if you start getting into the details of certain things about the victims, the victimology, like the little girl that got shot in the top of the head, the little Robinson girl. Well, she was said to have been afraid of being shot in the head. Well, how did the killer get this inside knowledge? Because he took a big risk in shooting her at 4 a.m, when he's the only car around and things like that. So, and those instances come up where these people were definitely targeted, each one of them, and carefully and concisely.
Well, and here's a good question, because if these children were being held for any certain amount of time, they could have been befriended by their captor, and that question could have been asked of them: what would be the worst way for you to die? Or
that's a very good point. But there were other little telltale signs that, and I can't bring them up because it's been so long ago since I studied, but I'm going, that's the connection I was looking for anyway, and I got some confirmation of that. So I really think that like for example, I think the last one being held for 19 days, their target was Tim King, and that's clear to me. And and they nailed him. You know, they got Tim King. You know, caught him off guard because he was hard to nab because they by that time they were, you know, they're all on their guard, but he let his guard down one time, and I think he got drawn into it. We'll talk about that later, but I think he got drawn into being abducted.
In all the files that you've seen, had there been any request for a ransom, any information that would suggest that he was being strong-armed before the murder?
Not in that instance, no. The only thing is with the Ramsey case, the fake ransom demand, because she was already dead. And, you know.
Well, but we have the lipstick killing case, which also had a fake ransom note where the child had already been bisected and deposited in storm drains on his way out of town to the train tracks. So that's what I'm meaning is I'm just wondering if that was information withheld that these individuals might likely have been ransomed for something that was ultimately going to result in the child's death anyways.
I think the three of us can agree that these, and I lost my train of thought on that, but it was right on the tail of what you were talking about. But it's to say the three of us agree with something, and when I think about what it is again, I'll tell you. So I won't stop you now. But I'm sorry,
we're gonna get there in 6 years.
Like, I don't have to start writing notes down and go look at my notes, but it was something that three of us could agree on that. And it had to do with what you were just saying. So we'll come back to that.
And we got 6 years. We got 6 years in my chronological order for you to remember that.
Okay.
That brings us to one of our first poem references that we see by the Zodiac, and it has to do with the Mikado, which is a Japanese opera that was played for the World War II troops for entertainment at the end of World War II. This could have been seen not only in the United States if it was being played for the troops, but also could have been something that Jack came into contact while he was stationed in Japan in 1954. 1954-55. At any rate, on July 24th, 1970, the Mikado play, pages 352 and 353, were mailed in San Francisco to the San Francisco Chronicle. This is actually the beginning of what we're going to see as the Little List poem, but it's obviously very different from the letter that's handwritten by Jack. So I'm not going to read this entire thing for you. It is up here on the presentation so that you can go back and read it at another time. It says this is a Japanese play that Jack, like I said, could have come into contact. And I think that Dennis mentioned at one point in time that and I felt this, but I'm not sure if I was correct in remembering it, but that Jack actually participated in a play. Did you hear something about that, Harriette?
I think so, that he was somehow connected to that play.
Right. He played a part in it or he did something with it. Either way.
Yes, he's playing a role here.
I recalled my thought. It's real simple. I think the three of us can agree that everything Jack did was message-oriented. It's all to talk. It's all to refer to another signal back and forth repeatedly, and at least three times usually.
Yes, so, 2 to 3 times, and could have 2 to 3 meanings, which is what really kept everybody spinning without direction.
Right. Yeah.
So this letter is not on the FOIA files as a known Zodiac letter, but we can clearly see that the envelope being handwritten is definitely holding all of the telltale marks and things that we would look for in the Zodiac letters. That actually brings us to the 13 slaves waiting in paradise. Now, I completely forgot to get with you on this one, Harriette. I do not know if you actually had a solve to this, but I did not include it. So we're just going to kind of read this one and see where it goes. What's that?
Oh, it's in the with the Little List letter. I'm seeing them by other people that were putting these up, that they connected the two together, but it is connecting together and saying a whole bunch of information.
Well, I will definitely be entertaining the Little List solve here in a minute, so we'll catch up with that then. So this was received on July 26th of 1970, and this is the Zodiac's message. This is the Zodiac speaking. Being that you will not wear some nice buttons, how about wearing some nasty buttons or any type of Zodiac buttons that you can think up? If you do not wear any type of Zodiac buttons, I shall, on top of everything else, torture all 13 of my slaves that I have waiting for me in Paradise, which is spelled with a C. Some I shall tie over the hills and watch them scream and twitch and squirm. Others shall have pine splinters driven under their nails and then burned. Others shall be placed in cages and fed salt beef until they are gorged. Then I shall listen to their pleas for water and I shall laugh at them. Others will hang by their thumbs and burn in the sun. Then I will rub them down with deep heat to warm them up. Others I shall skin them alive and let them run around screaming. And all billiard players I shall have them play in a darkened dungeon, all with crooked cues and twisted shoes. Yes, I shall have great fun in inflicting the most delicious of pain to my slaves. Signed, SFPD equals 0, Zodiac equals 13. Again, this is on the FOIA list. They did process the envelope for DNA and there were cells found, but we don't know whose cells. Yeah. Anybody have any spin-off on or take on that particular letter before I move on to what I got out of it?
They got Jack's Q right there in Squirm. I mean, that's the other thing I'll tell you that's aside to this, and I know you don't want to go down the road right now of the Idaho 4 murders, but they were watched. 2 of the victims were watched on a service called
I don't have any time for Idaho in this
that's a violation of their rights to be monitored that way.
Right.
Live
I literally am very tight for time on this, so I cannot spin off on those
for later.
Save it for
later. I wanted to say that what the torture sounds or whatever he's talking about, everything about the ants and stuff, that's also what, if I recall correctly, what was done in Vietnam to prisoners of war.
Right.
So he's alluding to something there, which is more of he was now a famous prisoner of war guy who just got out in 1973, 74-ish. That was John McCain. He became very
right.
So
that's a large subject, John McCain, but right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I would like to pull back and show that he uses the words twitch in here, and that was used in the Sherry Joe Bates confession letter, and it was spelled incorrectly the same way. This is a suspected Zodiac correspondence with DNA cells found. The unusual reference to salt beef. Jack used salt to cure his meat and tan his hides. We have the fun MO again, and the rhyme or the poetic reference. We're going to see a lot of a poetic style, even going back to the desktop poem. And that was another question I had. Did you ever have a solve on the desktop poem?
Actually, I did. It actually worked out as a Z48 girl cipher, which it was saying something about, if I remember correctly, it was saying something about why they went after her alleged boyfriend or connection to Lee Bowers Jr., I think. So I will send it to you sometime, but I just was taking a literal stab in the dark. Let's see if this works as a cipher, because I found something that was a little bit older than Zodiac. So anyways, it came up with something that was saying
we'll look for it. Now I do want to mention that the desktop poem was signed off as RH, and a lot of people were trying to fit that RH into the suspect's sign off as if that was supposed to be the suspect. But now that we've seen the way these messages have been coded and have been put together by the Zodiac, it is plausible that that sign off was not a sign off, but a send to. And RH being Randolph Hearst, it was going to a Hearst-owned newspaper in 1966.
You're frozen.
To the Riverside area. And now all of these cells that you're coming up with are also leading to the fact that they are going to Randolph Hearst. What's that?
Our leader froze.
What did you say,
That was
Terry?
you. You pixelated. You
I froze
for a moment. Yeah.
You froze like
well,
this.
anyway, I'll restate that. On the desktop poem, the sign off for RH could very well be a pointed message towards Randolph Hearst rather than it being the suspect signing off his own name. And now these solves that Harriette is coming up with is showing a direct relation or messages being sent to Randolph Hearst.
It's amazing. Okay.
It keeps circling back around. So these are some of the things that I found. The same type of spelling errors, letter additions, misspellings like Paradise, Twitch, the reference to salt beef. Jack actually made a fleshing, a skinning and a fleshing recipe on a notepad where he talks about rubbing things down with salt. So in that letter that we just looked at, he not only talked about skinning them, rubbing them down with salt, but some other dastardly things as well at the same time. Either way, letting them burn in the sun and then rubbing them down with deep heat. These all seem like some very torturous things to do to somebody.
The splinters driven under the nails. That's
right. And then set on fire.
That's very torture in Vietnam. If I understand the stories that I heard from other people that went through Vietnam.
What did the word deep on the last document remind you of when you saw the word deep? He put the word deep in there. I thought about the deep throat guy from the Nixon thing. Mm-hmm. Well, it's on this one too, an L-22, L-24. You have deep heat, and right. Why'd you use that word deep? Did he know anything about deep throat? That was going to be the deep throat's identity was a secret for a long time.
I don't know. I guess you could spin off into that direction, but rub down with deep heat. If you put deep heat on somebody who's sunburned, you are going to set them on fire.
Oh, literally. Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just saying that since things had double and triple meanings with this guy, I'm just everything's showing a Nixon connection and all this.
Yes.
And so many things going that way. I'm thinking I'm just saying word association, deep throat. That's all I'm saying. That's nothing more than that.
All right. I've got about 8 minutes to make it through these final slides. So basically we've got the slaves waiting in Paradise. There is Paradise, California, which is another favorite camping location for Jack. Paradise was misspelled in a railroad map from 1903. So the actual railroad station that went through Paradise, California was misspelled on the railroad map as Paradise with a C. And with JT's love of the train, he may have known this. Also, Dennis believes that it is referred to theory, which was another one of JT's put together words, pair of dice. Jack was living in a school bus at one point, and he set up and was gambling on it. Also, the Paradise with the C motel in South Lake Tahoe near the casino where Donna Lass was last seen. So we have lots of references for Paradise. That brings us to the actual letter, the little list itself. This entire letter is one big poem about a list of people he would like to kill. It is not on the FBI FOIA list, once again, which I don't understand. And Jack had a love for the Japanese culture. Dennis believed he had met and married a Japanese girl, but had to leave her behind when the war ended and he had to return home. The desktop poem, with its haiku form of one word per line, is another Japanese link. The little list letter was sent on July 26, 1970. I'm going to do a quick rundown of this so that we can get to Harriette's solve. It says, as someday it may happen that a victim must be found, I've got a little list of society offenders who might well be underground, who would never be missed. There is the pestilent nuisances who write for autographs, all people who have flabby hands and irritating laughs, all children who are up in dates and implore you with implat, all people who are shaking hands shake hands like that, and all third persons who with unspoiling take those who insist. They'd none of them be missed. There's the banjo serenader and the others of his race, and the piano organist. I got him on the list. All people who eat peppermint and pump it in your face. They would never be missed. And the idiot who phrases with enthusiastic tone of centuries, but this and every country but his own. And the lady from the provinces who dressed like a guy who doesn't cry and singularly abnormally the girl who never kissed. I don't think she would be missed. I'm sure she wouldn't be missed. And that nice impriest that is rather rife with the judicial humorist, I've got him on the list. All funny fellows, I think of them as the mob, comic men and clowns of private life, they'd none of them be missed. And uncompromising kinds such as whatchamacallit, thingamabob, and likewise, well, never mind, and tut, 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 and what's his name, and you know who. But the task of filling up the blanks, I rather leave it up to you. But it really doesn't matter whom you place upon the list, for none of them be missed, none of them be missed. And he says, P.S. the Mount Diablo Code concerns radians and inches along the radians.
Sure.
Ha! All right.
There's a whole new meaning to this.
Right? I actually took note to where this particular circle started and ended, and it was the same as Jack's hypnosis symbol right there.
Wow.
So it starts and stops at the same place. We do see that Jack has these calculations and mathematical formulas for things such as radians. So he has radius, volume, surface, area, circumference of the circle, everything that would break down, obviously, and let us know that he is completely up to date in his math and his ability to map out equations. Jeez. So that brings us to the solve that you had on the little list.
I think I did I put the two letters together because I was finding them running together. What you said is the 13th slaves or whatever. Anyway, so I put them together. So let's just read what it says, because I did my best to say what and how I did this. Anyways, it says Randolph, carbon copy, VP, Vice President Ford, saying President Nixon quit game. I'm Zodiac. And then he's trying to say in VP, Harry Truman and Nixon World War II secret code. Send UPI or via UPI, which is Hearst United Press International wire system. Anyways, he's saying then there's a pause and it says USN Kennedy NASA autopsy photos hidden voted most ugliest man shoeless singer, that's Joplin, PA system under one Earthrise stamp Halloween sent to Graysmith. Then he's saying about the postcard king in this SLA postcard king with one Raphael Madonna Christmas stamp. He's trying to recap what's just happened in 1974. Then he's saying sick, that's a quote about Ivans, the family, which is lightning him in, commission, Klaus's nominatio, Ralph Casasanta to dump juvenile, New Mexico. Then that's going to be in the future. It hasn't happened yet. The baby Holly hasn't been born yet. Anyways, then he's going on to say about cappuccino. He wants to talk about there's coming up in 1975. They're going to kill Hoffa, the cappuccino lover. But then he's flipping out. He's UIR, ubi ius remedium. Frank Olson, Tattletale Frank Olson, moved paper files. Feldman, Gottlieb, George Hunter White, the three argued. Then he's saying LSD, this Saudi, DE, that's Dwight Eisenhower. I got to read my own handwriting. And Saudi execute order. Then he's saying and then Bin Laden group, which goes back over 100 years, by the way. Anyways, Thomas Dewey times, that era. UTI, under the influence of CIA I-cult, plan to destroy every secret thing. Manhattan World Trade Center has put time bomb going in to implode the Twin Towers. And then he puts the two cross circles as locations for the two Twin Towers. Please answer the question, where is the remedy? Did Prescott Bush save Demosthenes' death date number 322, Tattletale which is to reverse something. Anyways, modus tollens, that's also to reverse and fix the problem. Anyways, did Charles Chip Bolin? I wish I did. Terrence, he says, I wish I had saved some of this. So that's what this says. And I combined the two together, the slaves and this one. Because that's where the others, our competition, have been saying they kind of run together. I found it they run together.
Who's the Feldman on there? Harriette.
Ira Ike Feldman.
Yes, okay. Ira Ike Feldman.
Okay.
So I was just following we're getting ready for the next episode to talk about radians, and I was following up on some of Garth Penn's work, and he was actually hinting on or pointing towards wind tunnels that needed to be used in order to do some part of his solve. Either way, they were only found in, I want to say, the San Francisco area, wind tunnels large enough to accomplish this in that area, and it was something related to a NASA project. So we're seeing the NASA again. Let's see. What else did I just see that I thought? Oh, iCult. So we saw the word iCult in the solve from Swearingen, where he used first and last words of that particular one, and he came up with the word iCult. So to find iCult again is another one of those confirmations.
Right.
Yeah, one solve confirms the other.
Yeah.
So this is again from the Postcard King. Harriette, have you seen the Postcard King?
Hey,
all this is a pinging to. This is actually from 1974. The Little List letter, 74, not 70.
Okay, I think we're at about our time limit now. It looks like if there's anything else you guys would like to add to this, I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Have a great Thanksgiving next week.
One real quick is to say that there are other researchers that have been claiming for a long time that these things that take place these days have been planned decades in advance.
Yes. But I have to. We don't have time. You guys. It was just like a real quick last second because we're at 9:52. Okay.
We'll see you
all right, you guys.
Week.
Yes, and thank you guys so much for being here. This has been wonderful. Take care.
Bye, labs. Okay. Bye.
Oh,